How can the leader of the opposition not have 24-hour security at his house? How?
Talk show host Claudius Francis argues that armed security details should be provided for political leaders given the inherent risks of attacks due to their high-profile office. Francis's argument comes in the wake of the home invasion of opposition leader Philip J. Pierre's residence. On October 30th, two bandits, one armed with a gun, broke into the downstairs section of Pierre's home but escaped after an alarm was triggered. Francis drew parallels with U.S. presidents and some world leaders who are protected for life to drive his point home.
In the United States, for example, when elections come up, once the nominee for the opposition party is known, that person gets Secret Service security until elections. And if he or she happens to win, it continues. We like to emulate the United States in a whole bunch of things. Why don't we emulate them in the fact that they take care of their leaders? A president gets security, he and his wife, for life.
Francis further sought to justify why politicians need a dedicated cadre of bodyguards trained in close protection to secure the lives of these VIPs.
Why is it that Stephen King, a prime minister, a former prime minister, must go about driving himself, go about without security at his home? Why? Why should Kenny Anthony? You know, we have this nonsense about politicians don't deserve. It's a tough job. If you don't respect the person which you have a right not to do or to do, respect the office. Nobody wants to get rid of any governor general, but the governors general have security 24 hours a day. They get driven wherever they go into. Some of them even forget how to drive. And that's okay. They should be given security and the perks befitting the office.
Local politicians feel obliged to the electorate, insisting they remain accessible to the masses, but observers warn that times have changed, requiring tighter security and greater vigilance. The talk show host also suggests that the government enact legislation which would appoint drivers and security details for ex-public officials.
I think it ought to be put into law. I think Prime Minister Shastney, you need to look into that. That we have former prime ministers who have to drive themselves home, all sorts of risk, where Kenny Anthony lives, where Stephen King lives. And you know, all of you naysayers, don't come and talk your BS on Facebook. Let's discuss it openly. Because you know, once politicians are involved, people just snare and say they don't deserve anything. These are the people in charge of our country, whatever else you think of them. And it's about time that politicians treat themselves with respect so people will treat them with respect.
This is not the first time the issue of executive protection for high-profile public figures has come to the fore. In April 2010, calls for assigning armed security detail for the judiciary were rife following the daring attempt on the life of a magistrate by a masked gunman. A thorough review of security arrangements for senior public officials was undertaken following a fatal shooting at the then Prime Minister Stephen King's Castries North constituency office in September 2010. King was unhurt and not the intended target of assailants, who gunned down a Castries man while he was waiting outside to meet with the then Prime Minister. Colby DeVoe, HTS News Force.